Basically, they decided this is a done deal. We need to pull our forces out of there. And so they instruct Kermit Roosevelt to wrap it all up and get out of there.
We must regret that we cannot consider going on fighting. Operations against Mossadegh should be discontinued.
The Americans were very new to the game, and certainly we would have hoped to have had more influence. I think that I'm right in saying that we had a little more experience in Iran than they had.
But at very precise moments, particularly what they call Black Sunday, when Roosevelt, who's the key person for the CIA, he kind of lost his nerve. It was the MI6 officers in Cyprus, particularly Derbyshire, who kind of said, let's go ahead. And they did so without the say-so of the Foreign Office.
I said all along that we should have backup in case something did leak or go wrong, and which it did. And this is when it was decided to bring the boys out onto the streets. It was the Rashidians who provided people to infiltrate the demonstrations. I was personally giving orders and directing.
یه دی با پیراهنی سفید که میگفتن توده‌ای‌ها. بعد معلوم شد که برخی از اینها عوامل انگلیس‌ها بودن.
They were provocateurs, but we had more than just provocateurs. We had a lot of shock troops who actually acted as if they were Tudeh people throwing rocks at mosques and knock over the statues of the previous regime. We were anxious to show the world that this was a spontaneous coup against Mossadegh, and that Mossadegh...
Once you start burning newspaper offices, which are known to be pro-Mossadegh, the mob starts coming out and attacks the demonstrators, and then it snowballs, which is what we intended it to do. It was the correct psychological reading of the Persian mob character. It worked.
There was a meeting in the White House at which Kermit Roosevelt presented an account of what he had done to the president and other very senior U.S. government officials. I think Eisenhower, in particular, was astonished and deeply impressed. President Eisenhower, as a general, had to send kids off to die by the thousands. Now he sees you can change an entire regime, and only a couple of hundred people die, and none of them are Americans, and it's very cheap. So he would have seen covert action as a peace project.
An internal report in the CIA about the coup in Iran later calls it a day that should never have ended.
Its consequences were so significant on so many levels. This had a very negative effect on Iran's attempts at building a democracy. It also had an impact on the thinking of U.S. policymakers and U.S. strategists, and particularly covert operations planners. Because it was seen as a big success, this opened the world to them.
So, of course, they were emboldened to do this yet again just the following year, in 1954, in Guatemala, when they overthrew the democratically elected government of Aquibo Arbenz.
And in the spring of 1954, there was also a big conference in Geneva to decide the future of Vietnam. When it became clear that the Geneva Agreement was going to give Ho Chi Minh a piece of territory, Dulles walked out. As he was flying home, he decided, we're not accepting this, and we're going to fight. We're going to undermine Ho Chi Minh. Of course, the French couldn't defeat him. They're a decadent old power. The British are not ambitious enough. We are going to do it. We can do what they couldn't do. Oh, people thought we couldn't get rid of Mossadegh. People thought we couldn't get rid of Arbenz in Guatemala. We just got rid of those easily, like you'd swat a fly. You think we can't get rid of Ho Chi Minh? Just watch.